All right. It's been a bit, but welcome to the exciting conclusion of Module 1 in Access. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about additional database objects. And again, as a guy that's been teaching databases for a long time, the different database objects means different things depending on the types of database you're on. But in this case, we're talking about access. And so one of the very first objects we're going to be talking about are queries. Right now, we've been able to create two objects. We've been able to create the locations object, which has got a bunch of stuff about locations in it, and we've done a shippers object. One thing I forgot to do, or not so much forgot, but didn't do, is back here when it said importing additional access database tables into existing thing. Um, I was not exactly my best form at that point, and I realized I hadn't actually done this step. This step will be important about maybe 20 minutes from now. So let's make sure we get this done. And it's actually a good conversation point anyway, because right now we've got our two objects here, but imagine that there's another database out there that's got some objects that we just simply want to copy. For example, maybe a friend of yours has created some other objects in their database and you really like it, and so you want to basically bring them over. How in the world do you do that? Well, you can click on external and you can go to a new data source. Now, a lot of the times when I've taught this, in the past, especially a full access class, I've talked quite a bit about bringing in data from a spreadsheet or bringing in data from a comma delimited file. That's basically a text file with either commas or some other character that separates each and every field. In this case, though, I've never actually found a reason to copy from another database, but I can kind of see why they're doing it and why they're letting us know. Notice that you actually have the ability to copy from an Access database and other much more sophisticated ones and much ancient ones. DBase was one of the very first databases I was learning in the mid 80s. But anyway, let's click on Access. Access is in the application, and I'll make sure that this is out there in our the assignment file. But basically, there's another database out there with extra tables, probably because they wanted to spare us the grossness of trying to basically create all those tables. It was bad enough we had to create these two. But here's what I'm going to say here: a couple of really important ideas. I don't think it's that much rocket science to say, click on the file and find out where it is. But there's two other ideas here. This guy here will import the basically everything that you want in that particular database, which includes its structures of all the various objects and the actual data. Once it's done that, it's very much like if you've got given a copy of your resume, for example, to somebody else. There are now two different files that are exactly the same. Another option, which we're not going to do, is you can link them together. And this is pretty interesting, especially if you're got some spreadsheets and you're kind of linking to those and you make a change in the database, it'll go back and make the change in the spreadsheet. So imagine the link is basically one object that's got a bunch of things pointing to it. Import is a straight copy the way that you guys probably already understand. So I'm gonna click on the imports and it's going to say what object would you like to import. This is straight from here, by the way, but I'm going to basically say, please give me everything. And we're going to go okay. And I don't need to save the import steps. The only reason I'd save it is if I was going to keep doing it over and over and over again. I'm only doing it once. I'm going to go okay. Those objects are now there. And so now I've got 5 database objects as you will want to have as well. So now we're going to go ahead and create another object. We're going to create a query because right now what we're looking at is here's a bunch of data that's sitting inside. You might be thinking, Grant, this seems to be a pretty complicated version of a spreadsheet. That's because these are effectively spreadsheets. They are doing some things they're having some kind of data integrity here. You can't have duplicate keys and all that, but it's like there's way more to do here. We can actually create another object. Oh, don't get ahead of this textbook. We can create a simple query. So we're going to go ahead and create a simple query. When you're creating a query, there are actually 3 ways to do it. This particular time we're just going to spend in the query wizard, but there is a sort of a design and also the ability to use structured query language as well. But we're going to do this guy, and we're going to do a simple query. So I'm going to go okay. So here's my simple query. Let's make sure I'm not getting too far ahead. I want to make sure it's based on the locations table. Now, why was it based on the loads? Because that's where I was clicking here. But you know what? You can just go ahead and pick shippers, and now you got the shippers. What else? So, okay, so that's all that there. And then it's going to say, okay, all right. So now it's what are we going to basically pick? Now, a query is going to be how we get information out of our tables. Obviously, we can just basically load up the table and look at it, but again, no better than a spreadsheet. This is going to be our way to basically look at specific information we want out of that table. So, for example, it appears that we only really want to have the shipper name. We don't have the shipper ID. This thing, by the way, is basically saying to click on the shipper name and then click on this button. Sure, you can do that. Like I'll do it right now for shipper contact. I'm going to click on shipper contact and click on this add field button. You can do that, but oh my goodness, is that ever gross? The other option, which is I think better, is yeah, just double clicking. So I'm going to double click here. I'm going to double click here, and I think we're good. Is that what I want? Yep. I'm going to go next. It's going to say, what do you want to call it? I think I'm just calling it shipper query because I think that they're just letting it go. Obviously, so later in life, think more about what you actually want to call it, right? You know, you might want to say list of students, for example, if it's a bunch of students, or list of items, or, you know, later on, you'll be able to actually do some really cool stuff where you'll be able to say list of unique items that Grant bought or whatever. You'll be able to do some really cool queries, but right now we're just doing a simple one. All right. So now what's going to happen, right? They just want us to click finish. It's going to open it, and I'm going to click on finish. And here we go, right? This is the shipper's query. It's its own little object. And it's not the shipper's table, because that's what the shipper's table looks like. The shipper's query looks like this. And just don't do this, but what I'm going to do is if I go shippers, and I'm going to change flooring to flooring, and I'm going to put a bunch of zzz in it. All right, I'm going to do that. And if I go to shipper's query, see how the change is happening in shipper's query, right? Shipper's query is basically running a query off of shippers. All right, so that's important for you to understand, right? It's not duplicating the data. Oh, shoot. No, is it floorings? I think it's floorings, I think. Oh, this is not okay. I got a graphic problem here now, so I'm just going to assume that this is working. And yeah, there it is. Beautiful. And now if I go to shipper's query, it's okay. Why? Well, oh, did I not save it? Oh, come on, man. All right. Well, not sure, but anyway, the point is that it is definitely. Oh, maybe no. Oh, come on. This is why you never try something right away again. But I know if I bet you if I was to close and open, you know, I don't have to bet nothing. I'm going to close it right now. This is coming up in the end. So I'm closing it. I'm now going to open it. It's this guy here, and I'm going to go to shipper's query. Florence. All right. Do I want to explain what just happened there? Um, I'll explain a little bit, right? All software is pretty lazy. And so what it did is when I ran it the first time, right, I went to the shipper's table, got the information, great. Then I made the change and I wanted to show you, hey, look, I did the change and you could see the change. I suspect when I then went back and then changed it and then reran the query, it might have been going to some kind of cache somewhere. Cache is just if you think about your browsers when you're surfing the internet, and it doesn't always load all the images over and over and over again, or whatever you're loading. Sometimes some of that stuff is stored in your hard drive to make it easier, and I think that's kind of what's happening there. I don't know, but you know what? Whatever. It worked. And by the way, the best thing to do when you get some weird behavior before you spend a lot of time thinking about it, very much like the, you know, have you turned it off and on again kind of solution. I would basically just shut it down, bring it back up, and that'll get rid of your cache. All right. Well, that was fun. Over here now to using queries. After you created a query, it stores a query as an object. This is just as much of an object as this. These are now two different objects. Okay. And you can look at them and also understand that queries. I'm almost I don't know what the hell. Like you can actually, um, well, it's not a very exciting image though. I wonder what's going on there. But anyway, you can create a query in different ways, is I guess what I'm trying to say here. So cool. All right. Well, I guess did I go create? Is that why I did that? Oh, I went create design view. What I should have done, I think, is in the view, gone to design view. That's what I was trying to do. All right, so I didn't do this too much with the other objects, but here it's kind of interesting. When you're looking at your query, it's an object that you can look at for data sheet, which is what I've been showing you the whole time. You can look at the design view, which isn't that interesting, but here's your table with your various fields. And let's get rid of that for now, but there you go. And you can do some neat stuff there. I think that's coming up much, much, much later. And then when I said structured query language, there is a language behind each query as well. All right, so cool. Let's let's do. Was there? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna keep going. All right, creating forms. So remember, this is sort of a light touch on each of these particular objects. We're going to create a form because how would you get information in? Now, you already know that when it comes to a table, you can basically go ahead and start to insert a row here. But there's another neat thing you could do. You could actually create a form. And so the way to do that is to go again to the create, and there is a form option. And I think they want us to create, so they want us to create a form. All right, so we'll go form. And now I've got sort of a little bit of an interface here based on shippers. That's what they wanted, shippers. And later on you can do cool things like maybe change the headings or maybe not everything is going to be on your form. But for now, this is just sort of an easier way, potentially an easier way to basically put data into your database. All right. Is there anything else I want to do here? Actually, where's my there's the navigation. I want you to see the navigation. We're on record one. Here's record two. Here's record three. And remember, in relational databases, we typically say rows, not records. All right. So let's keep going. Yeah. So now, of course, we want to save it. Uh, cool. By the way, I guess let me just shut some of these objects down. There's the query. And now if I want to basically just Xing out, we'll save the thing. At least it wants to. So I'm going to click sure, save it. And I think, why is the form title shippers? Because it's coming off the shippers table. Do you want me to rename it? Shipper, yes, you do. Shippers form. Shippers form. All right. I think I can go okay. And now I've got three sets of objects, and now I've got an object called shippers form. Cool, cool, cool. Using a form, once you create a form, I can effectively just sort of go back in, and honestly, that's it. I can just basically go back in and navigate and all that kind of crap. All right, so that's basically how to use a form. Yeah. So let's go next. But now we got another object, and that's reports. Reports. So it's going to get even more complicated later because this is kind of basic as we say in the business. But let's say I want to create a report on loads. So here's a loads table. This is what the data looks like. But I want to basically start to create I want to control the format on how this data actually looks. Well, I can click on loads, go create, and I could create a report. And I think, yeah, let me expand this for a second. Yeah, I can do the report wizard is kind of what I want to do. Oh, you're just going to do that? Come on. You're right there. Perfect. So wizard, I go. Again, it's going to show if loads was not what I wanted, I could choose different objects, but I'm going loads. And what do you want me to do? You want me to select load ID and click the add field, or again, just double click. Use the arrow button a second time when they're talking about basically clicking here again, or if I just want pick date, I'll just double click. Now it says move down to drop off rate. So we're not doing pickup location. So we're going to do that. We're going to do rate confirmation. We're going to do that. The truck type, we're going to do that. I'm just following this line right here. Status, we're going to do that. Carrier fields, carrier, sorry, is a field. So we're going to do that. So these are all the fields that we want. We don't want to see the whole thing. We just want to see these fields. All right. So, yes, good deal. So now at this point, you might be thinking, well, we're just going to see sort of a subset of these fields, but no, in fact, we can also group them so that these will be listed by status. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to take status and I want to group it by status. I wonder, I don't necessarily want to do this now, but what you might want to do is not group it and see what it looks like because it's going to basically look just like a spreadsheet. You know what? What the heck? What the heck? Why not do that? I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to create it. I'm going to pick the load thing. What was I supposed to get? Load ID, pickup date, drop off date, rate confirmation, truck type, and carrier. Oh, status was another one, and then carrier. Okay. Going to go next. I'm not going to group it. I'm going to go next. I'm not going to sort it. These would be basically sorts. I'm going to go next, and I'm just going to go finish. This is not what the report is asking, what the textbook's asking me to do, but I'm sort of stopping on step 4 for a second to show you. Right now, this is the loads table, and these are all the fields to look at. So no, and we got problems. Obviously, we got problems because there's the loads data. Let's close the loads data. These things are or hashed out because they don't fit, and we can edit the format and all that kind of stuff and get it to work. But that's not what the problem is. And I think, right, yeah, that's going to be the report view, print preview. I just want the report view. Thank you. So you bring your mouse over to wherever you figure the column is, and of course I can't do it. Okay, that's great. What are you? Oh, that's the design view is kind of what I want. There's the design view. So the design view here, what I can start doing is make things bigger, make things smaller, move things around, and so on. But let's not talk about that quite yet because that's not what I want to show you. What I want to show you is that if you're not happy, if you want to group it, which is what the textbook's saying that we should be doing, then we'll go back in. So let's move you over. We'll right click here, and we will go to open. Nope. All right, so we're going to go to layout view or design view. So it's too late for me to do the thing I actually wanted to show you. All right, this is kind of why I didn't want to click on the finish thing first, because what I was hoping to do, I was hoping to go back in as a sort of a wizard and fix it. But it's not going to let me do that. Okay. All right, lessons learned. I wonder actually. All right. Well, I can't do it. So you know what we're going to do? I will just say no to that and create a new one. Oh, delete. Please. Thank you. Yep. There's noticed a lot of times, by the way, there's no undo when you start doing that. So just be careful when you're deleting and stuff. But anyway, let's go back in here and do it again. So this is load. Crap, I've already forgotten them. Pickup date, right? Pickup date. And then it's going to be drop off date. And then it's going to be rate confirmation. It's going to be truck type and then status and carrier. All right. So we go next. And are you going to group it? So they did want us to group on status. So if you can remember what I just did, you'll see. Let's just go finish. Okay, this is killing me. That is not. Oh, because you. Oh, that's right. All right. Nope. No, I get it. I get it. I was one step away from doing it properly. All right. Well, if you're actually following along with me, I hope that you're having as much fun as I am going back and forth here. Again, pick the right table and go pick up date, drop off date, and scroll up because again, I forgot it, drop off date. So I got, oh, there's also load ID too. Okay, and I think, can I move you up or anything like that? No. That is fine. I'm enjoying every second of this. That pickup date, drop off date, the rate confirmation. I'm sure I didn't have to put. Oh, I did have to put loaded date there. Okay, fair ball. Uh, the rate confirmation, truck type, and it was status and carrier. Okay, we go next. Group by whatever it was, status. Good. And what I clicked finish there, but what I should have done after the sort is this step. And I was trying to get to this step. Here's what I'm trying to show you. In this entire product, it's trying to help us by showing us images of what we're actually looking for. So I want you to kind of have an idea what you're doing here. If I go stepped, what we're going to see is we're going to see a status and then whatever's in that status, another status, whatever's in that status. Block, notice how it shifts an outline, right? So just, click around with this. And then what are we going to call it? Load, by the way, this is funny. It says to the right of the word loads, type report. Or if you want, you can just change the title to be loads report. And sure, the preview looks great. And this is kind of what we're saying here. See how here's the status, which has only got one. Delivered, however, it's got two in there. Dispatch has got one. Transit's got one. Whatever's got one. All right. So that's kind of what's going on with this. And again, you can go ahead and by clicking on design, if you wanted to, you could start making things bigger so that when you look at it, it looks better. And I tell you, let's expand and let's go ahead and let's see if I can fix that. So what I want to do is I'm going to take the rate, I'm going to shrink it, I'm going to take the end date, I'm going to make it bigger, I'm going to take the start date. Actually, the load ID is like a single digit, so let's move that. I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to make him bigger. Let's run it. For goodness sakes, give me some sugar here. Okay, well, the other option too might be to make the fonts smaller and things like that. There is going to be more topic on this if we actually do talk more about reports, but anyway, it's basically saying the reason it's hashed out here is because actually right there, right? It's hashed out. It's got data. It just doesn't fit in here, and so we just need to either drop the font or make this bigger. And there's a lot of wasted space here too. So, all right, enough of that. Next, boom. Changing the layout, and I just kind of showed you that. Again, clicking on that button, that little button there, will do it for you. Next, identifying database properties. This one, as I got to it, no surprise here, but it wasn't really working for me the way that I think it's supposed to work for me. So let's just see what happens. So every object has got, in Windows, has got a property here. They're basically saying that we can go to the backstage by going File. Oh, by the way, I should shut this down. Yeah, because otherwise, not sure what I'm doing. I'm going to go File. And then it says, click View and Edit Database Properties link on the right pane of the info gallery to whatever. So I'm looking at this thing. I'm kind of going, I don't see what it's talking about when it's talking about properties. So that's not the way I would have done it. And oh, nice. And yeah, anyway, it's not there. So closest I got to what I think they were getting at is by clicking in options. Here, there were ways for me to enter in some stuff. Like, for example, what they were getting to was like the titles and things. I had the ability, if I wanted to basically start making some changes to this particular database, the current database. So versus general, for example, which would be for everything. So I'm thinking that might be what this guy's about. Because see how I could have it set so that when it opens immediately to the shipper's form, right? There's going to be a conversation coming about compacting. I'll try to explain that. But there's definitely stuff here that you can look at once you get much more comfortable with this as a tool. Right. So this I didn't get a lot of joy out of that particular page. There are, however, database options that you could also be doing. One is backup and recovery. Backup in this world is literally save as. That is basically what backup is. So, yay, right? It's not really any different than anything else. Like backup your resume, backup your spreadsheet, and so on. So it says, open up a backup, click on the ribbon thing, save as, navigate to where you want to save and save it. And I do think, by the way, you should be saving often. And you can always, if you use GitHub or something like that, that's great. Of course, at the very least, you could always just slap the date and time right after it, and then you kind of have at least an idea. Um, you could use that for version control. It's gross, but you could use it for version control. This was kind of interesting, compacting and repairing. And what it's kind of saying here is that as you start, you know, um, making changes and this thing becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, sometimes it becomes rather wasteful in its usage of memory and space. So again, this thing here, when it said, hey, if you want to do this, you open the database, go to the file, open the backstage, whatever, and click on this. Um, Click on the compact and repair database button in the info gallery. When I did this, I went file, so here's my backup, and I didn't see that as an option. So I kind of went, okay, enough's enough. Tell me what to do. And I basically went, and you can actually see what I just did there, but I typed compact and repair, and it gave me this option, which is basically the button. I suppose I could have added to the ribbon here or whatever, but I never took it off the ribbon. So I want to make sure that this is what you're going to experience. So maybe you'll see it, maybe you won't. But remember, you've got this little text thing up here. I can click just go basically, and it did it. Now, we don't see what it did, but you might actually see if you start looking, if you work on a fairly big database and you compact it and then saved it, you might actually see it drop in size, or you might actually see it starting to work better. It's probably a good practice to do every so often. And then finally, closing it, you can go file and then close, just like you would with a spreadsheet. And now at this point, access is open and not the actual database that you were working on. Saving a database, you could go file, save as. That's exactly as backing up, or you can, you can go to the actual object in Explorer and rename it. And deleting a table, which would have been good to cover when we actually were talking about tables. You can delete any of these objects by basically right-clicking on them and going delete. Now, if you delete an object that a query is based on, it's going to be rather cheesed. So just think about that. Like, I don't want to do this now, but if I want to delete shipper, then the shipper query is probably not going to work. The shipper form is not going to work. Loads will work just fine because it's based on the loads object. So just be careful when you're doing these things. Again, this is why you're backing things up. Renaming is the same deal. I think you can probably rename things without worrying too much about it. If I want shippers and I hit enter, I think the shippers query will run just fine because it's actually not pointing to the word shippers. It's pointing to that particular object. I also believe the shippers form will work just fine as well. Right. So you can be a little bit more free with the renaming. But if I was to delete this, I think I'd be really hurting that database and then getting out of access. And then we are done. So that basically is the end of module one. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I'll be cracking on now with module two.